I'd like to talk about an idea that I've heard a lot of flat earthers talk about here recently, and they're coming up with this idea that if space were a vacuum, then somehow space would suck out all of Earth's atmosphere. Now, if you look at this picture, it's pretty easy to understand what's going on here. There is no boundary that exists where there's a high pressure where there's the high pressure of Earth's atmosphere and the zero pressure of space. It's a constant gradient. As you move away from Earth's surface, there's less and less atoms, and the pressure gets less and less and less till eventually it's zero. Now, I can kind of understand where the question comes from, because if you look at an example like this, like an evacuated cube, there's 14.7 pounds of pressure per square inch, let's say, on this cube. So if the top is 10 inches by 10 inches, there would be over 1,470 pounds of pressure just on that top surface. Now, if you want to get the pressure, if the cube was evacuated now, so if you multiply that by 6, you get about 8,900 pounds of pressure, which is a lot of pressure, because you have the entirety of Earth's atmosphere on top of you. And a lot of people, can understand that. And you know it to be true. You know altitude sickness is a real thing. Airplanes flying above certain heights have to be pressurized, because if you're above a certain, there's not enough oxygen in the air where a lot of airplanes fly. Now, there might be minimal, but it's definitely not enough to keep you conscious and alert and feeling proper. And at some point, at a lot of places, at some elevations, you can actually black out in a matter of seconds. Maybe like 60,000 feet, something like that. But anyways, so, if you can admit that if you go to Denver and it's 10,000 feet above sea level, that the air is thinner, you can agree that space exists. Because just take that one step further. Go to 20,000 feet, go to 30,000 feet, go to 60, 120,000 feet, 240,000 feet. Take that to the end, and eventually there will be a point at which no air pressure exists and you are in a vacuum. That's outer space. Now, I'll just say that I actually had this question whenever I first came into thinking about science, and it didn't take me long to figure out what was going on, but I was extremely scientifically illiterate. Now, if these flat earthers are trying to figure out that the Earth is flat, they're going to have to understand science, and they're going to have to be looking at scientific experiments and trying to understand what's going on. They should be able to figure out that assumption, or that statement, that if space was a vacuum, it would suck out all of Earth's atmosphere, is a pretty crazy thing to say, because of the fact that air pressure decreases as you go up gradually, which we all know to be true if you think about it. So I don't know if they're being disingenuous or what. It makes me think they're being deliberately misleading. I'm going to call this series Flat Earth Fallacies, because there are so many of these. There's a growing number of people these people are snake oil charming, essentially. And, they're religious fundamentalists. And I really don't care if you're a religious fundamentalist, as long as you're not, taking something that is true and twisting it, or you're killing people or something of that nature. You don't need to disprove that the earth is spinning, or you don't need to believe that the earth is flat to believe in God. You can do that regardless. To me, actually, if we're living in like a petri dish, like a domed earth like they believe, we're probably a scientific experiment. So, that's not a great case for God. So I'd argue that contention that we're on a flat earth is actually worse for, the hypothesis that God exists than if we lived on a spinning globe in infinite space. What's more grander than infinite space? Nothing. God maybe, perhaps. But, I just want to say that I don't have a problem with religious fundamentalists, but they're taking something that society was built on, that gave us pretty much, look around, everything you see was given to you by the scientific method, engineering based on scientific principles. So, I'm sorry I'm a little ranty today, but, I just wanted to kind of start this series off. I'm going to call this Flat Earth Fallacies, in hopes that I can walk through pretty much every one of these ideas that these flat earthers have wrong and disprove them in under 5 minutes. And thank you for your time.